What up, Doe? Welcome to the 3-on-3 podcast, where we're talking all things hoops, man. 3 topics with your 3 favorite hoop heads. I'm your girl, Tarika Foster Brasby. I'm back from Paris, back from Paris. I don't know how to act about myself. I'm still bougie, still smelling that Paris air, which ain't all that great. But at the end of the day, your girl is back. I know y'all missed my shenanigans last week, but here we are. I'm alongside my guy, host and anchor extraordinaire, Chris Williamson, although he's feeling a little under the weather. Chris, how you doing over there?
I'm doing all right, Tarika. You know, you can hear it in my voice. I know you said it off camera or before the show. I sound like crap, but I'm here in the flesh, and I'm trying to battle through it. So let's cook.
I appreciate you putting a Jordan 23 on us or whatever. You coming in. It's your flu game right here. I feel
Yeah.
that. That's what's up.
You know.
But we got your back, though, because this week we have a special guest co-host joining us, holding it down. Dee is also under the weather down under. And so instead, we get to kick it with the creator of Basketball Society, the host of Basketball Society podcast, and co-host of the Protect Our Queens podcast. Please welcome Martin Soaries to the show. Hi, Martin.
What's up? What's up? What's up? It's good to be here with y'all, family. 2 people that I love and respect. So it is really good to be here. Looking forward to chopping it up with y'all.
I'm super excited to have you on the show. I didn't stalk your IG enough, so it's great that you're finally here with us. Just kind of let us know what you've been up to, what you've been doing.
Well, I've been stalking y'all first and foremost. So, like I said, I appreciate being here because I'm a big fan. So I'm gonna get my fan energy out the way first. But yeah, just been tapped in with the college season. NBA is here, and some of my kids that I've been training through high school, they're starting their college seasons. They're freshmen, so I'm trying to keep up with them. So we're getting into winter and basketball season, so this is the time when things get pretty busy for me. But it's the best game in the world, so I love it every year. It's always great.
I love that. And yeah, we definitely gonna later on in the show chop it up about some of the freshmen that you're working with, especially in the college game. It's crazy right now. And you got we spoke about one earlier off camera who I think is phenomenal. So can't wait to talk about that. But let's get into the show. And I feel like there's no better way for us to start than with the team that's already sitting on top of the NBA. They're sitting on top of the power rankings this week, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. 8-game winning streak, 6-0 at home, 8-1 overall. The process is processing. Okay, I mean, the Sixers they're rolling right now. And honestly, if it had not been for a few miscues here and there, I think this Philly team really could have won their opener against the Bucks. So we could be looking at an undefeated right now, but that's neither here nor there. You know who is undefeated, though? The internet. The internet is always undefeated. It ain't never lost. And on Al Gore's great internet, we got this video playing over and over of your boy James Harden out in LA at his conference, at his introductory conference, talking about he is not a system player. He is the system. Well, the system is broke as hell because the system ain't been working in LA since he got there. Clippers are a smooth 0-4 since his arrival. So, Chris, tell me, why is the system failing?
It's funny that the sirens were going off in the background. I don't know if that is poetic or irony, but the fact that they were going off as you're mentioning James Harden and how the system has failed for 4 games since he's gotten back or since he's been traded to the Clippers is hilarious to me, right? The reason why it's not working is because, one, I don't think they really have a full understanding of how they should work together. I think maybe you bring James Harden off the bench. You give Terrence Mann a look at the starting position so James can lead that second unit. Because remember, Ty Lue said he wanted Russ to be on the ball and James Harden could work off the ball. But with Harden, he's talking about he's a system, right? He can, operate and facilitate and score. You want him to be in a better shot or better position. And if you're going to have him as a starter with Russ, with PG, with Kawhi, I don't think that's the right recipe. Then also, they're just not locked in defensively. Like, this team looks dysfunctional, out of sorts, and maybe that's expected, but they're getting up there in age. So those are part of the reasons why they have been struggling. And I also think, James, he just doesn't the self-awareness, we talked about it, Tarika.
Come on now.
Self-awareness is not there. So I don't know, but Martin, how do you feel about the way the Clippers have come out the gate with Harden coming onto the team as of late?
Honestly, it looks how I'm pretty sure we thought it was going to look. I don't think anyone expected Harden to come in and then they just start wilding with their little awkward big four that they got going on. Like I was legitimately shocked when I heard that the Clippers were even interested in Harden. Like there's so many factors that I'm like, man, Ty Lue must feel like he's a miracle worker. Cause it's like, why are y'all interested in James Harden? The Clippers had a good thing going. You bring in a guy like Harden, you're changing everything, and you know you've got to work around him when he's calling himself a system. I will say this, and I'm not going to fully defend James Harden here. Just an observation from a couple things I've seen. I don't think Harden. Well, I know for a fact Harden is not used to playing with guys who are legitimately better than him, and for him to play off the ball, he's not used to being a catch and shoot guy. Now he's a much better shooter than Westbrook, but he's used to having the ball in his hands and holding it for 10 to 15 seconds, and he makes the decision. So I've seen him a couple times pump fake, go for a contested pull up. He's not even used to playing off the ball with other guys who are better than him. So I think that's a huge adjustment for him. And they have adjustments to make as a roster. I think the roster is so challenging, and I'm shocked that they even wanted him in the first place.
You know what? I can't stress enough how I think both of you all just nailed the one thing that this all boils down to, and that's just self-awareness, right? Like, I believe there are 3-year-olds that have more self-awareness than James Harden. And the thing is, he's not the only one, right? There are plenty of people who just haven't accepted the realization that they just aren't that guy anymore. And so, Martin, you've covered this game a while. You've worked with a lot of people, a lot of players on different levels. I need you to just throw somebody under the bus right now. Who swore that they were him and everybody else was like, nah, bro, you not that guy?
Okay. I got one for you. The best scorer I ever played with, my college teammate, Jason Reels, still one of my closest friends to this day. He lives in Florida. His kids are my niece and nephew. Jason was a phenomenal scorer. He's from Paterson, New Jersey. Never saw a shot he didn't like. Handle, pat, big guard, could post you, could hit the three, had everything. But he was selfish. He was a selfish scorer. So this story is about a scorer who was selfish, who heard the feedback from his coaches and teammates to say, Jay, play unselfish and you will score more. So this is about a play. This is about impacting winning, which I've talked about a lot with people in James Harden. Certain players may not be Hall of Fame caliber or have gone on scoring runs like Harden has, but when they play basketball, they just go out there and they do things that impact winning. There are things that you can do to impact winning a basketball game besides scoring. You can run the floor, You can play defense, you can communicate, you can do all kinds of things to impact winning. The main thing Harden does to impact winning is go out there and dribble the ball, come get me a ball screen, tat, and let me get to my step back. All the other many things that you can do to impact winning, he doesn't do. So my guy Jay Reels, I always tell my players this too now. I saw with my own two eyes a selfish scorer score more points by taking less shots because he bought into being unselfish, efficient, and focusing on playing winning basketball.
Yeah, you know what I find interesting, and listen, I've been told y'all, I've been told y'all a long time ago that this was a recipe for disaster, that James Harden was that guy. My dude, Brian Damaris, the Dallas Mavericks analyst, he eloquently ethered James Harden, and I just felt so.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah.
Oh my God, he ethered James Harden so professionally. You know, Bally Sports ended up pulling that video of their social media. And at this point, it's so spread across that everybody's seen it that it doesn't even matter that they've pulled it. But I mean, he perfectly and eloquently ethered James Harden, and I just felt so validated watching that entire video. I'm glad you said it. And you know they listen when the white man said it, so it don't matter when we say it. When the white man said it, they really listen. So I was like, we are on board here. But what I want to do really quickly, though, is in thinking about everything that we have all said about James Harden, and how we knew what the impact was possibly going to be in LA. What I love is the impact that it's actually having on Philadelphia. Because the other thing that I think some of us talked about, I definitely brought this up on Brother from Another, is that Maxey was going to be that guy if James Harden was not on Philadelphia. So a couple weeks ago, I was filming BFA and I was called emotional. There was a person that came in the comments talking about, I don't know who this chick is, but if she's calling Tyrese Maxey a star, she don't need to be talking about basketball. And I'm cracking up. In my mind, I'm like, there's no way y'all possibly can watch hoops and not understand what James Harden being off this team does for Tyrese Maxey. And dude has been thriving. He dropped a 50 burger on Sunday on 20 of 32 shooting. And y'all know how I feel about efficiency. Efficiency matters. But he added 5 assists. He added 7 boards. He added 3 blocks. And none of this took away from Joel Embiid, who also had a 37 and 13 performance. And the key word in that to me is complimentary. Like, that's the whole point. I feel like that was the plan in Philly from the beginning. Like, James Harden, when you came to Philly, you were supposed to be complimentary, not the focal point. And like, you're continuing to show that you want to be the focal point everywhere you go, and you're just not at focal point potential anymore. That's not your game anymore. So you're now in LA on the same shit. You're trying to be Diddy all up in the videos, and it's just not working. And so what I love is that now Philadelphia is really showing what happens when you get complementary pieces to play alongside who should be the focal point. To your point, Martin, it opens up the lane. It opens up opportunities for you to score more. It spreads the floor, draws attention defensively to different players. Now you got Maxey showing out. Now you got Tobias Harris, who never was a scrub, but sometimes he just decided he ain't want to show up. But he's been deciding to show up. And even without Kelly Oubre, which shout out to him, and hopefully he'll be fine after being in a car accident, fracturing. Someone hit him, and he has a fractured ribs right now, which that whole scenario is weird and very interesting to say the least. But prayers up to him for a speedy recovery. But I mentioned him to say Nick Batum stepped in, added some much needed spacing on the floor for them to get some point. It's just this Philly team is clicking without Harden, and the whole point that he missed is that you're not the focal point. You're the complementary piece. Be that piece. And he just can't seem to be that piece.
Yeah, he can't seem to be that piece. And it goes back to, pride and ego, right? Which a lot of these guys have, at the highest level. But what's ironic about, Tyrese Maxey and his development is that he gave credit to James Harden, for, really empowering him and giving him the confidence to be who James always thought he could be. I think it was a clip, was it maybe a year or two ago when they were playing the Bucks, and James was like, do I need to remind you like who you are? Like, dude, what are you doing? And then Maxey went off, right? But to the point about, the chemistry and the flow of how it opens up the lane for Joel Embiid and other guys, Tarika, what Maxey does so well is he's able to attack you in all 3 levels, whether it's a nasty step back 3, if he get the floater, he's done a great job of perfecting that, or, you know what I'm saying, the mid-range game, right? And that will just make this team so much more potent as we go further and further into the season, because he's not just a limited scorer. And then we got to talk about his hustle on defense, right? There were a couple times in that Pacers game when he had some massive blocks, because even though he scored 50, that game went down to the wire, much like it did for the Bucks and the Pacers when Giannis scored, I think, 54, and the Bucks lost. So Tyrese is really coming into his own, and I don't know if it's going to end up in them making it to the conference finals, winning the NBA finals, right? Because we have yet to see Joel Embiid specifically show up in crunch time during the postseason when it matters the most. But I'm here for the ride, and I do think it's better for the Sixers now that Harden is gone, because you don't have that looming over your head, Martin.
Yeah, like I feel like we are seeing the difference in a team, just morale. Like, morale matters, and you're seeing their energy is different. They're playing more free. When you get that monkey off your back, whether it's a person or a situation or whatever the case, you do see the difference in how a team plays. The guys like each other. They're glad to play. That stuff matters. I'll say 2 quick things. I'm glad you mentioned that, Chris, about Harden, because I do feel people should remember that, Maxey's game is almost a mold of Harden. It's a younger, fresher, quicker, more popping version of Harden to me. And when Harden first went to Philly, I'll find the tweet. One of the first things I remember saying publicly was like, yo, Maxey is about to soak up a lot from that man. The sidestep master. He has a lot of the same quick twitch stuff that Harden is not as quick with anymore. But right away, I'm watching videos. They're shooting together. They're in the corner, working on the sidestep, going to progressions. I'm like, yo, wait till y'all see what Maxey turns into from circling. Whatever we feel about James Harden, in that gym, when it's just us working out, he's going to soak up some stuff from him. So when I heard him give Harden credit, I'm like, I knew it. I knew he was going to soak up game. And back to the point about Maxey. See, this was always the difference to me between Steph and Harden. 5-6 years ago, there was a legit debate, like who's better, who's the better lead guard. This was always the main difference. And it's very simple. It's just movement, that pop, right? Maxey plays with that pop. He comes off the screen. He just goes right to it. Quick decision, easy decision. I think that's how Doc was trying to get Harden to play. Harden doesn't play with that pop. Harden catches and sticks. He waits it out. And usually he'll create a nice play. He's a great playmaker. But you're going late in the shot clock. It's just too slow. There's not enough pace. Maxey's giving you pace, youth, athleticism, blocking shots, doing things that are impacting winning. And now he's confident enough to get 50. Yeah, I don't, like Chris said, I don't know where this is going, but the league might really be in trouble. Like, we have our next young elite lead guard coming up right now before our eyes.
Yeah, agree with you 100%. And you're talking about adding athleticism. He was crashing the boards offensively. And that was something too. Like, when you can get some offensive rebounding, giving your team an extra opportunity to get some shots up, to get reset, like, that's going to be huge for this Sixers team. But now that brings me back to my girl, Tiffany. Yeah, Tiffany, you getting all the love today, girl. I didn't call you out on Twitter. I'm calling you out on the show, because Tiffany's point was, how can Maxey be a star in this league when he's never been an all-star? Is this the year that we see Maxey, if he keeps playing like this, if the Sixers continue to play at this level? Is this the year you think, and I'll start with you, Martin, that Maxey can be an all-star and can get that all-star nod?
I think he will be in the right. If he's prepared to be putting up 30, 40, 50, not to say he's just going to be averaging 30 for the rest of the season, but if he's going to be averaging at least 20, given that confidence, Nick Nurse seems to be unlocking him. He's playing well with Joel. I love how you mentioned that, T. Like, Embiid is not lacking because of him. He's still dominant. He could still be an MVP if he wants to again. So I think he will be in the running. Like, he's going to play well enough, and it looks like Philly's going to be winning enough games where you're going to have to consider him.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I don't know if he's going to be able to, keep putting up, 50 burgers or 40 burgers. But if he's averaging, like 25, 7, 6, whatever, there's no reason why he shouldn't be in the conversation to be, an all-star and then also an all-NBA player. Like, this is the year for him to really step into that spotlight and be a hot topic and a hot topic amongst, the national media and also the local media.
Let's talk about hot topics, because you know who else is a hot topic right now? You know who else out here, boy? This man hot as fish grease right now. Anthony Edwards is here, and he's not here for the games neither. The way that mic picked up him and Draymond Green talking cash money shit on the court was classic. But here's the thing. Ant was backing it up. And that's the one thing that makes it very difficult for you to be Draymond Green, is that not only is this man talking much junk to you, but he's backing it up. So I usually got my man Sag Nasty's back, Michigan State Spartan. I usually got your back. But Draymond, you will have to sit this one out, because Anthony Edwards was doing him. This Minnesota team is also on a 6-game win streak. This Minnesota team is also in the top 5 power ranking. Anthony Edwards has been so key to that. He dropped 33 in that matchup against the Warriors. They're also taking on the Warriors in their next matchup, which is happening on the evening of this podcast recording. And there is no Steph Curry. So now you've got an opportunity for Anthony Edwards to once again continue to propel this Minnesota team. He's averaging 27.9 points on 51% shooting 43% from three, 6.1 rebounds, averaging 1.1 steal. Several outlets have already listed him as a top 3 player under the age of 25. But now we got to have some conversation about whether or not he's a top 10 player, period. Because there have been some NBA scouts who've been saying, listen, this guy is a top 10 player in the league despite age. So, Chris, what is happening in Minnesota? And do we agree that AE is top 10 right now?
What we're seeing in Minnesota is the birth of the next Michael Jordan, this generation Michael Jordan, in terms of, and I know, Martin, you had, the way y'all looked at,
I'll charge that to the medicine. What you was taking, Chris? NyQuil?
I was taking NyQuil, cough syrup, the whole 9 yards, Mucinex.
Michael Jordan?
That was poorly phrased, right? Because I was going to get into something, but I saw your faces, so I had to address it. And Martin's still like, I'm going to slap the shit out of you, bro, for saying that. It's something that your boy Rashad Phillips said, right? On one of your podcasts, Martin, about how Anthony Edwards reminds you of Michael Jordan's in terms of his, and the words he used were fabric of his game, not in terms of his career longevity, but just the way he comes to work, his attitude, and his athleticism, right? Some of his athleticism. You're reminded of Michael Jordan. Nobody's saying he is the next Michael Jordan. I'm just talking about.
Clean that up, Chris, because my heart started beating fast.
I saw it in your faces. I was like, "Oh shit! Now I gotta clean this up," because what I was trying to say did not come across. But yeah, he's a guy who consistently wants to get better, and you see it with his game. In terms of his mid-range game has really improved. The 3-point shot, he's not scared of anybody. He does not want to back down to nobody. It's like, what you going like, bro? Ain't nobody worried about you, Draymond. And then what did he do after that? He proceeded to cook his ass because he's writing checks that Steph Curry can't cash by himself, right? And Draymond damn sure can't cash him because he ain't all that in a bag of chips at this current moment. Like, Steph needs a whole lot of help. In terms of the conversation about Anthony Edwards being a top 10 player, the way he's playing so far throughout this short season, I would say yes. I would say, yeah, he's playing like a top 10 NBA player. Going into the season, no. But now, yeah, I'm with that. I'm on that. I'm on that train for now.
Yeah, I feel like AE is becoming a force of nature. Like, not just a good player or a better shooter, and like he's all those things are happening, but it's like his mentality and his physicality are turning him into like a force of nature. It's not just like watching a good play. It's like, yeah, and I think he has checked a big box on his way to becoming a superstar, which is get berated by Draymond Green and respond and cook the Warriors. Because the thing about taking on Draymond in a talking spat and whatever, it's like, I always thought this, it's crazy because Draymond might get in your head, right? Now, and then you also got Steph. Because, like, I feel like Steph low-key will feed off that. Like, he won't say that, but, like, if Draymond gets into it, Steph will just be like, all right, quiet. But, like, all right, Draymond's over there. I might come down and hit 3-4 in a row on you, and then you really out of whack, right? So you really you got to take on Draymond. And then, like, if you're a scorer, if you're a top player like AE, it's like, okay, I'm not just battling Draymond here. I'm battling the Warrior system, Steve Kerr, and Steph Curry if he decides to go off. So the fact that AE did what he did and responded, and it was like, hey, man, like, I know who you are. I know what you're trying to do. I'm here. Like, I'm not the one. Like, you're not going to throw me off. I'm not one of those. Like, I'm really built different. And then he shows it. So I do think that Anthony Edwards right now is one of the 2 best shooting guards in the league. It's him and Devin Booker. And by that logic, to me, he's playing like a top 10 overall player right now. I think that's comfortable to say.
Yeah, I would agree with you that in both of you guys in that aspect too. And I just think when I look at this Minnesota team as a whole, and just kind of how their trajectory has been, and this season is still very young, it's still very early, but I love the poise that they are starting to play with. That kind of starts to make you feel like they're a little bit of a veteran team, because when you think about that Warriors game, they were down. They had committed 9 early turnovers in the first half. They had gave up so many offensive boards early on, and you kind of felt like y'all about to be doing the same old Timberwolves type stuff, but they held it together. Defense has absolutely been, and I mean, I guess it really shouldn't be a surprise when you got Rudy Gobert, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. So you have the anchor to that. But we can't forget about Karl Anthony Towns. And I think that that is where it starts to get a little funny when you talk about this Minnesota team, because here you go, Karl still had 21 and 14. I think it's one of the best games in his young season. And again, the way that they were locked down defensively, they didn't make it easy for Jonathan Kuminga in the paint. They didn't make it easy for Klay as he was driving, trying to help Golden State go on that run. The defensive consistency to me is what really has Minnesota playing so well early on. And so when you see how there could potentially be chemistry between Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert and how this team is coming together, you also have to think, could we be looking at a front office that has in the past made mistakes and say, well, we've got our player in Anthony Edwards. We've got our focal point. Maybe we need to look towards moving in a different direction. And that direction could include being without Karl Anthony Towns. Martin, despite all of that, do you think that this Minnesota team is looking to build its future with both players, or could we be looking at a potential movement in the future with Karl Anthony Towns going somewhere else?
Well, I really feel like, I'm gonna talk about Nas Reed, because I feel like Nas Reed. I keep waiting to see what they're gonna do, because I do feel like, not if you're gonna move off Towns, you have almost the next best thing in Nas Reed. Now, to me, Towns is one of the bona fide unicorns. He's one of the top 3 or 5 skilled bigs in the league, right? Hybrid post stretch big. Like, he's super skilled. Like, how much better are you really gonna get, right? Like, you could probably get a nice little haul for someone like Karl Anthony Towns if a team is really coveting him and is willing to send. But like, is that really gonna be worth it? Is that gonna turn you into a team that's better than what you have? I look at the duo of Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns as something that you should probably look to build around, unless you're looking at Nas Reed as like, let's more invest in him, because Nas Reed is the real deal. I'm not just saying that because I'm from
Right.
Jersey. Nas Reed is the real deal. That boy can play. He does everything. Every time he's on the floor, he's doing everything, almost everything Cat can do. So I
Yeah.
do wonder, and I had been watching to see, like, are they going to let this be Anthony Edwards' team? That was the first thing I was watching for in relation to Towns. They've done that. They've accomplished that. It's his team. He's kind of forcibly taken it, if you will. But that's happened, and Towns seems pretty okay with it. If they can coexist, my thing is like, why not? Because with Towns, I think you probably have a better product than you would have without him.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I know it's easy, or yeah, it's a sexy idea, to like, all right, let's move off Cat, because he'll be coming up on a huge contract year, paying him like whatever 39 million or something like that. Don't know the exact numbers, but is it worth it? And I'm saying you give it another year or two, right? And I think then you see, okay, maybe we do need to move Karl Anthony Towns, elsewhere, because AE is the cornerstone for me. That is the franchise, and I think Carl was perfectly fine with that. To your point, Martin, like, he doesn't strike me as an individual who is that alpha male, so to speak, all the time. Until he's comfortable being in that second fiddle position. So yeah, I do think, to Martin's point, that they should stick with Karl Anthony Towns and see what they can do with those guys, particularly, right? And then if it doesn't work out, right, if they're still, the thing about the Timberwolves that really bothers me is what they do in the postseason. They they just crumble. They make all these really dumb decisions. And I'm not saying they're dumb players, people, right? They're not intelligent, but sometimes we make dumb mistakes, like all of us included. And that's what the T-Wolves do. So I like where we're going with this, with the T-Wolves and Anthony Edwards taking over as the front runner or as the cornerstone of the team. But I need them to take that next step when it comes to the postseason and not blow these leads like we've seen for the last few seasons.
I like where you were going with that, Chris, and I also like where you're going, Martin, with the conversation about Naz Reid, which is something that I probably should have thought a little bit more about because it makes so much sense. And on top of that, you consider that Cat got a contract extension coming up. That's Supermax kicking in next year, $49 million. And okay, listen, let me get $1, Cat. You got
I skipped $10 million. Yeah, 49. Come on now, I need that.
I mean, damn, you got it too. But with that being said, like that has to play a factor in how much we think about what the next vision or view of this team is going to look like. Are we thinking that you need to pay this bread? Like, is he a necessity? And I think that this season is going to really tell the story on whether or not we think that Cat is a necessity to this team or just a very expensive addition that if Naz Reid, as you pointed out, can really live up to that next level, then maybe that's an expensive addition that we don't necessarily need, right? And so I think that is something we have to talk about when we look at, because listen, Minnesota's sitting 3 right now in the standings. To your point, Chris, they don't always play the best. The West is stacked, but they have a real opportunity this year, I think, to really make something happen for them from a postseason perspective. I'm not saying they go all the way to the Western Conference Final, but they certainly can get out of the first round, I think, this year. I see you shaking your head, Martin. Get in here.
I feel like that has everything to do with what we're seeing from Anthony Edwards. Like, we're seeing that the fact that he's taken on the Warriors, he's taken on teams, and it's not to say he's doing it by himself, but when you have an alpha, when your best player is playing like how he's playing, you look at a team like that, and they have other good players. Jaden McDaniels is doing great things. They've got Conley, Naz Reid. They have other good players. But when your best player is playing like that, you feel that you have a chance against anybody. So yeah, Dallas, Golden State, Denver. I mean, we don't have super teams anymore right now, really. So it's like it's kind of up for grabs. If your best player is playing like that, you see it as they have a chance. Now, I will say, I think Chris and both of you made perfect points, because I do think what Cat does in the postseason will probably really determine how they feel about, okay, do we go all in on Ant and Cat, and then maybe package Naz Reid, a couple other players, and you might be able to get something nice even from that. Because again, I think Naz Reid is going to be a valuable piece either on the roster or maybe as a trade piece. So I think you need to make that decision, especially when you go with, I never understood the whole Twin Towers thing. I thought we were small ball, 4 out, 1 in, modern day basketball, like the Gobert Towns thing. I'm like, who's doing that anymore? So they do have to make the decisions, and I think the postseason, it will probably clear things up for them.
Yeah, Cat has to deliver in the postseason. I know he battled like some injuries, and that may have played an issue or played a role in why he didn't perform well. But he needs to, like, Tariq, you brought up the fact that he's due for a supermax, $49 million. You get a supermax, you better be delivering in that postseason. Okay, you need to be all in, lights out. If you're not, then hey, look, it's not my money, but the team ain't gonna want to pay you. So that's something that is really, really key for them.
Guys, the first week of college basketball is underway, and already this season, specifically on the women's side, has been filled with, I think, both expected and unexpected outcomes. So Dawn Staley is already reminding everybody that South Carolina should not be overlooked, and it really only took a week for them to be where they should have been from the start, number one. So let's move on. Preseason favorites, LSU and UConn, they've already suffered their first losses of the year. Pac-12 still ain't lost a game. Caitlin Clark already got a triple-double on the season. And Juju Watkins is leaving no crumbs for nobody at USC, right? So it just kind of feels like this season, the parity across women's basketball is at an all-time high. And I can't remember the last time I've been this excited about a season. Like, just knowing no matter the hype around player A or the hype around player B, there just really is no clear-cut favorite on who is going to dominate the college game. We've come from a time where Tennessee dominated, then UConn dominated, then you had your pieces here and there with who might win a championship, but then UConn came back, won won like 4 more in a row. Then over the last few years, South Carolina has really dominated. But at the end of the day, this year, there is just so many great players across this league, across the NCAA landscape, that I think it's really setting the scene for what really could be another fun and unpredictable season. So, Martin, when's the last time you've been this excited about a college women's season? And so far in just this 1 week, what has really stood out to you the most?
This has got to be the most anticipated season, the most anticipated time in general for women's basketball, for women's college basketball. Mm-hmm. I do want to give a shout out to my girl Hannah Hidalgo, Notre Dame. Got her college career started off the right way. They took the L to South Carolina first game, but she had 31. Waiting for them to get Olivia Miles back, but Hannah is doing what I've watched her do since she was in about 6th grade. So it's really wonderful to see. And Juju Watkins, she is an alien. When I see freshmen that play like that, I always think back to Carmelo Anthony, the most freshman I ever watched in my life. Like, she don't look like no freshman out there. Michaela Williams at LSU. I mean, the freshman, it's really just too much. But for someone like me, it's glorious. I just love all the talent, and I mean, it's something that we've kind of seen coming, because if you've been paying attention, you've been seeing girls are just looking and moving different out here, Lord, and I just love it. So you're seeing the product of that right now.
Yeah. It's also like the evolution, of the women's game, and, how these ladies have just taken it to another level that, probably some of us may not have expected. So it's great. Amazing to see that. And, unlike the college men's game, the women's game has so much star power, right? You talk about parity. They have so much star power and storylines where we talk, excuse me, when you talk about freshmen coming into their own, you talk about aliens, like Juju Watkins, that's a junior as far as I'm concerned. Michaela Williams, on the day of this recording, on the day of this episode that we recorded it, she had 42 points. That's the most by, I think, an LSU freshman ever. 42 on like 20 shots. They got My Laser for Wiley, of course, Hannah Hidalgo, right? You got Caden Samuels at UConn. There are so many different players that have really shown, like, yo, I may be a freshman, but I'm going to dominate like I've been in this game for 3 years, or been at the college space for 3 or 4 years. So that's what I really love about it. And it makes you very interested to see how they're going to progress in their careers, because unlike the men's game, we know we're going to have them on the scene for at least 3 years, right? Depending on, their age or whatever, but at least 3 years, they're going to be the talk of the town. And also what stands out to me, Tarika, is these preseason rankings. Like, they're not, how do I put it? Some of them highlight how people go off history and legacy as opposed to what's really going on. Like, what are we talking about? Because UConn had no business being number 2. That's a legacy vote, okay?
No.
That's like, okay, Paige Beckers, okay, former, won the National Player of the Year, Freshman of the Year as well, when she came onto the scene. AZ Fudd, preseason All-American, whatever. Aaliyah Edwards. But we knew that this team was going to take some time to gel because of the new pieces and Paige and AZ coming back, specifically Paige coming back. And then how about Indiana? Indiana being ranked where they were. I was like, hold up. Indiana, what was it? They were ranked 9, right? They were ranked 9, and Stanford was ranked 15. I get a little bit for Stanford, right? They lost Haley Jones. They lost a lot of star power, but they still have Cameron Brink, who's looking like one of the best, bigs in the country, if not the best big. But yeah, bro, they lost Grace Berger. What?
That was their player.
Exactly.
That was.
Like, Mackenzie Holmes is great, but Lord, there was a point there. I'll have to check the stats later, but there was a point where she had 0 points and 0 boards in the game.
I'm gonna do you one better though, bro. They had. Have you seen it wasn't the preseason, but the top 5? Like, did you see the preseason like top 5 rankings players on
Oh,
it.
yes, I did.
It was Paige, Cameron, Mackenzie,
Right.
Angel, and one other person I'm missing. And I'm just like, there's one other Liz Kitley, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so we gonna disrespect Rakia Jackson like she not still playing. It's just to your point of people, some of the voters in some of these rankings or whatever they're doing, they're completely out of touch, it seems, with who's actually doing what and where. And of course, as a Black woman, I feel a ways that Angel is the only player who y'all think deserves to be in the top 5 of all the players across the across the women's college basketball landscape. That's the only one. Like that was wild to me. But let me go back really quickly too, if I can. I was in Paris watching that game, and I had my husband with me, and the whole time he kept saying, "Who is number 3? Who is number 3?" I'm like, number 3 for who? Who is you talking about? He like, number 3 for Notre Dame with the little blonde ponytail. Who is that? And I'm like, oh, that's Hannah. That's Hannah, her dog. She a freshman. He like, she a freshman? Yes. For at least the first half. If it wasn't Hannah and it wasn't Sonya, what no points being scored. And so there's obviously going to be some conditioning that happens with this team where they're going to mentally get into it. They're going to figure out, I have no doubt whatsoever that Neil Ivey is going to have this team together. And when Olivia Miles comes back, that backcourt is going to be solid. We were talking about this before the show, that backcourt is going to be solid. Still wouldn't been able to do nothing with South Carolina because South Carolina is in a league of their own, but solid in the ACC for sure. But I say all of that to say the parity across women's basketball right now, I think, is at its highest. And I do believe that South Carolina will sit in that number 1 spot for a few weeks, but I don't believe that they're unbeatable. There are some teams that if you show up on the right day, which is what I love about college basketball, you show up on the right day at the right time, any team can take an L. And so we've seen that with LSU, all of the hype that came in around them. I think the hype is deserved because I think they're a great team. But I also feel like Colorado wasn't no scrubs. Colorado wasn't a team that was just sitting over there waiting and just got lucky on a good day. Well, they were a team that had played together. They were familiar. They understood what the assignment was, and they went out and executed, and they took advantage of the slow start for LSU. So I think we'll continue to see things like that happen throughout the course of this women's college basketball season, and they're only going to get better. And the chemistry is only going to gel even more. So by the time March gets here, it literally could be anybody's game.
And another point on the parity, we all know we have to give credit to the transfer portal. You have to be on your P's and Q's. You better be keeping up with who's going where, because you may be playing against a girl like, hold up, she was a McDonald's All-American. What's she doing at Southwest Dakota State? You know what I mean? You better keep up with this transfer portal because that's contributing to the parity. Girls are going home. They're going to where they feel they can play, be themselves and play free.
Mm-hmm.
So that's contributing to the parity as well. And T, I loved how you mentioned the star power starting right at the top with Angel Reese. I've been talking to people about it all offseason. Angel Reese is a case study in fame right now. And I'm loving the star power we have in the women's college game, which seems like it is more prominent than the men's college game. I don't see a bigger star than Angel Reese in the men's college game right now, just from a fame standpoint. You know, the other girls are influencers, huge followings. You know, I think that's contributing to the confidence and the notoriety of the women's game as well.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to continue to see how well these teams continue to just kind of push everything out. I also want to just quickly say, I need y'all folks to get off social media lying to these college girls talking about y'all ain't gonna make no money when y'all get to the W. I need you to understand the difference, people on social media, between endorsement and salary. They are not the same. They are not the same. So yes, these girls can make money in their NIL deals. The bigger they get, the more that these endorsements will come their way. It has nothing to do with their salaries. Stop lying to the American people and stop spreading misinformation. If you don't know what you're talking about, shut up.
Sorry, I just have to jump in. That was a bar. These are not just people on social media. I'm gonna take it a step further. These are
You're right.
people on major platforms, right, where millions are watching. These are former NBA players in some cases. So you have to be extremely careful how you talk about the women's game because you hold so much influence over people with your word. And even like people will take you for your word a lot of times, like, oh yeah, this player, okay, whatever, they know what they're talking about. But a lot of times people do not know what they're talking about, even if they have all these credentials. So I'm with you, Tarika. Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, shut up. Just shut up.
Just
And then also, let me take a step further. Let me go another level. Like the people that are in the WNBA, you cannot just sit back and laugh at that, right? You can't endorse it or enable it. It may be uncomfortable, but like, yeah, yeah. No, actually, mister, this is how it breaks down. Endorsements don't stop when you get to WNBA. The salary may be, what it is, and that's what we're trying to, increase. But endorsements, if you that girl, they gonna come. They gonna come. So that's all I got to say.
I still listen. Angel Reese is signed with Reebok. Angel Reese still gonna be signed with Reebok when she gets to the WNBA. That ain't gonna change because she's not a college player anymore. So yeah, do your research, folks. If you're not sure about the difference between endorsements and salaries, just take a seat until you are. All right, y'all. So I was scrolling down my Twitter timeline, and I'm always going to call it Twitter. So it ain't going to never be X as far as I'm concerned. But I'm scrolling through my Twitter timeline. I came across Paul George's podcast, and I was listening to Lou Williams talk about his experience in the bubble. For those of you who are, just tuning in and then been living under a rock for the last 3 years, we went through a global pandemic. And during that pandemic, people had to play basketball in a bubble. So the women were in Bradenton, Florida. The men were also in Florida at IMG, I believe. And, bro, it was an experience for those that were there. They couldn't leave. They had to stay in the hotel the whole time. They were getting COVID tested every day. And so Lou Williams decided to talk about how, there was food. Kawhi was cooking and it was quite. And did you guys see the video? See the clip of Lou Williams talking about his experience? One thing that he said though that really struck a nerve for me was he said that he didn't. They didn't want to take the championship seriously because people said that the championship wasn't going to be respected. So the Clippers were actually up 3-1 over the Lakers, if I'm not mistaken, that would have given them an opportunity to go to the NBA Finals, which that Finals was.
Yeah, it was the Nuggets.
It was the Nuggets. That's
yeah, yeah. They were trying to go to the conference final. Yeah.
Yep, it was the conference. It was over the Nuggets. And they were up 3-1, and they ended up losing. And so he talking about, they was talking about the chip wasn't going to be respected. Bruh, first off, this is all cap. You're lying. There's absolutely no way you lose a 3-1 lead because the chip wasn't going to be respected. Honestly, in my opinion, for real, y'all, I feel like the chip in the bubble was probably the hardest chip that has ever needed to be won in NBA history. Why? Everybody had the same level of everything. There was no travel. There was no, this player got more rest. This was straight up. You got the same amount of rest, the same amount of days off, the same amount of time, the same training. It was the most equal opportunity for every team in the league that year to win a championship. That was number one. Number two, it was mentally taxing being in that damn bubble for as long as they were. So everybody kind of had a mental issue that they had to get over being there around those people all that time. And for the Lakers to still pull it out against a Miami team that at the time was pretty damn decent, I got mad respect for them winning that championship in 2020. So I don't know what Lou Williams talking about. He is lying. He's cap. I don't believe it. Quit being extra out here to the American people to sound cool on the podcast. You don't sound cool. You sound crazy. No one's losing a 3-1 lead on purpose.
They were up 16 in game 5. They were up 7 going into the fourth quarter. And he's talking about, we just decided we're going to take our foot off the gas.
what he said.
Even if that was true, you're telling me at the beginning of Game 5 or after you went up 16, going up 7, you check social media with it. Oh yeah, they think this chip is not going to be respected. Get the hell out of nope. I don't. There's some things we're like, bro, that's cap or whatever. It may be true, but this is just blatant. Just take the L. Be like, yo, we choked.
Right.
Like we fell flat. And we got our asses handed to us by the Nuggets because we didn't finish business. Don't go around here trying to spin or preach a narrative about how, yeah, we heard rumblings that the chip wasn't going to respect it, and that's why you lost. Bro, I think it was Nekias, right? Nekias Duncan shouted to him. It was like, there's film. We saw you. We saw you. We saw how it went. Like, Martin, this is ridiculous.
This exists.
We saw you hooping, therefore we saw you trying, right? Like you, yeah. I mean, are you admitting to throwing games? Are y'all just gave it like, bro? No, that environment does matter, and we all can struggle with motivation in whatever you're doing, right? And your environment and setting matters. And I know we've had a lot of bubble talk afterwards about guys who said, "Oh, we didn't really care," or "We didn't really listen." When you step on the floor and you hoop, you're hooping. You're hooping to win. You're hooping, especially when you're in a position to almost win, bruh. Yeah, it's like, oh wait, they said, guys, they said this isn't good. Like we're up 3. What? Like we gotta let it go. Like just they said it doesn't count anymore. Let's not play anymore.
If you were gonna say, well, you know what, they didn't respect the chip, so it wasn't that big of a deal that we lost. Win the series, you're up 3-1, and then just consciously say you're going to lose the next one. Like, just consciously lose that one. Right. You don't just throw away literally all you need is one game, and that's where you just like, you know what, we straight. We don't, like, we going to check out. Look, you're better than that, Lou Williams. You're better than that. I respected the man who went to get the lemon pepper wings. I do not respect what is going on right now about y'all ain't care about the chip. I don't respect it. I just don't.
Never will.
He's definitely better than that.
Better than that, yo. But everybody, I genuinely appreciate both of you for joining us tonight. Chris, get some rest, my friend. Take care. I don't know don't drink whatever it was you were drinking that had you talking about Michael Jordan, but drink something else. Get something else. Get something else for that. Martin, thank you for hanging out with us. We would love to have you back on the show again. It's always a pleasure to have special guests come and hang out with us. So we love it. Appreciate you. Everybody, please make sure you continue to check out the 3on3 podcast on iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find us on Twitter at 3on3pod. You can find us on Instagram at 3on3pod. I'm your girl, Tarika, signing off.